So how much space does it actually take to start 3D printing in dentistry? Hey, I'm Dr. Chris Griffin, founder of the 3D Printing Association for Dentists, and this is the video series that's all about helping you get started 3D printing in your practice. If you are interested in 3D printing, take a minute to subscribe to this channel. This is the video series that's dedicated to helping you make 3D printing a big winner for your practice. And once you subscribe to the channel, hey, give us a big thumbs up, and that'll help us reach more dentists as they start down this journey. And let me tell you, this 3D printing journey is going to be great for every single dentist in our whole profession. So go ahead and take a minute and do that. And now let's talk about the real question. I hear this all the time in my seminars. How much space does it take to get started 3D printing? And I've got to tell you, most of the time it's not a question. A lot of times they're saying to me, hey, Dr. Griffin, I don't have enough space to get started 3D printing. I don't have any space. My lab is so crammed full of stuff, I don't have any room at all. Well, today let's dispel the myth that it takes a lot of space to 3D print. Now, once you get advanced and you've got, I don't know, 6 printers like I do now and multiple systems, yeah, it takes a little space then, right? But when I got started, it took very little space. And I'm going to show you exactly how much space it takes right here, okay? So let's talk about the 3 primary components to what you need to 3D print. Now let's assume that you already know you're going to have digital scanning of some form. You got to have digital scanning. You know, that's not really taking up any space that you didn't already have allotted to a laptop or whatever in your practice, okay? But the first thing you got to have a 3D printer. This little fella right here. Now, this is a pretty standard size for a 3D printer. This is a SprintRay 55. It's not the S version, it's the old 55. And this is the kind of printer, this will actually print every single thing you need. Now, there's reasons why you get a different model, or reasons why you get this model, but a lot of dentists start out with this model. So I'm just going to talk about this system. You actually can buy this little 3-piece system as a package from most of your dealers, okay? It's not that big. It's about 26 inches deep or something like that. It's going to sit nicely on a counter. I always tell a dentist, hey, if you have a stone grinder, you can have a 3D printer, because the stone grinder is basically taking up the same footprint in your lab, and once you get the 3D printer, you don't need the stone grinder anymore. I think that's probably where the disconnect is, and what most dentists don't realize is that they don't need a lot of the stuff they currently have. And we're just going to replace it with stuff that's more efficient and more productive, like 3D printing, okay? So you got to have the printer. That's number 1. Number 2, you know, the stuff comes out of the printer. It comes pretty well cured, but you have to do some final curing before you deliver it to a patient's mouth. Now, maybe you don't have to do that if you're just making a model or something, but if you're going to deliver something to the patient's mouth, and that's one of the profitable ways to get into 3D printing, then yeah, you're going to have some sort of post-curing mechanism. So most systems have a box about that size. It's really small, right? It's tiny, and that's going to be how you cure it. You could get away with just that if you absolutely had to. For months, I had this set up without the 3rd piece, just the 2 pieces, and a homemade alcohol wash sitting on a regular table in my break room. Just over in the side of the corner of the break room, I had my 3D printer, my curing station, and my homemade alcohol wash. And we did this for 6 months, and we did tons of procedures and delivered tons of procedures for our patients. You know, I think of all the night guards, all the dentures, all the models I made so that we could do our own clear aligners. We did all that stuff just from this tiny little single table in the break room. I came up here on the weekends and did that, right? That's when I was doing everything. Of course, now I don't do that, but back then it was no problem. Just me in a tiny little space, and I was off to the races, okay? So those 2 things, that's all you have to have. Now let's talk about the 3rd thing that I think you probably should have that's going to make your life a lot better, you know, but you know, it's optional, but it is really, really cool. Before we get to that, let me share with you guys, back at the homepage for the association, the homepage is 3dpa.org. we've got you guys free checklists for the top 3 procedures that we do in dentistry every single day in our practice. It's just step-by-step checklists. You can have them. We're trying to get the word out. We want more and more dentists to get into this because they know how powerful it can be. And we're trying to reach you guys and help you. We want to teach you the best ways to do this. Okay, so the checklists are there for free. Also, I made some videos that actually walk you through each checklist step by step. So if you're interested in those procedures, and I believe they're immediate dentures, clear aligners, and surgical guides. I think that's the 3. If you're interested in any of those things with step-by-step checklists, go grab them at 3dpa.org. Okay, so what's the third thing that's not absolutely 100% necessary, but really, really cool? It does take up a little more space than the curing unit. That little fellow right there, it's called a wash station. Now, most of the big 3D printer companies now have their own wash station. When I started, nobody had them. It was amazing. So in the past, we actually built a little Tupperware. Well, we bought a Tupperware thing from Walmart, of all places. I cut a hole in the top to sort of fit the apparatus that comes out of the 3D printer that has the models attached to it and stuff. And I just put it in that. And so it was soaking in isopropyl alcohol, 91% or greater. It would soak in that. And then I actually bought a magnetic test tube stirrer. And that we just turned that on and it just spun the alcohol around and it would clean the stuff. It did a really good job. You had to keep a timer on it because you don't want to overdo it. It's really precise. You don't want to get too much alcohol for too long. And we did it that way for months, maybe a year or better. And that was fine. But hey, when we started rolling with this and just doing tons and tons and tons of it, by that time I had appointed a 3D printing auxiliary for my practice. And that's a whole nother video. I really think that the next auxiliary for dentistry is going to be maybe not just a 3D printing auxiliary, but let's call them a 3D auxiliary, 3D expert, whatever you want to do, because technology is moving so fast. I really believe somebody should just be in charge. Everybody should do the scanning, but somebody should be in charge of the equipment, the technical side of the scanning, taking the files away from the scanning and bringing them into 3D printing. And that's a job. That's a great job for the practice because this right here kind of replaces at least the need for a minimum of one assistant chair side, in my opinion. So you could take that one assistant, move them to just a job where all they do is handle the 3D technology all day. Maybe you got a patient that needs something start to finish. They could, if they're already an assistant, hey, they can take that patient from step-by-step start to finish on a denture or clear aligners, and then that relieves pressure on everybody that's down there doing crowns and fillings and stuff that's not as technical in your practice. So the third thing we bought was, though, that made our life so easy was the wash station. Now, a lot of the big companies have this now. You basically just take your build plate out of the printer that's full of stuff you printed, all the cool stuff. You put it in a slot in the top of the wash station right there. And it's basically like a car wash, an automated car wash for your 3D printer. It does exactly the right amount of alcohol for exactly the right time. It gets it so squeaky clean and beautiful, and then you can take that out, and then you actually go to the curing station after you do that. So the wash station, it's a little bit of a luxury. You don't have to have it, but man, if you get a good package where it's kind of bundled in, grab one of those things. You will not regret it, let me tell you. So that's it. That's how much space you need. And I measured this from the curing station to the end of the printer, and this is a SprintRay system. We're talking about 46 inches sitting on the countertop. Regular depth, it's not very deep, so that's not going to take, if you're inclined, I don't know why you couldn't. It's got to have a little venting on top, but you could stack these, right? You could have a little stackable thing. In my lab, I've got 3 autoclaves stacked on top of each other with appropriate venting. And so you could do that with this. Wouldn't even need that much venting. You can get creative. And don't forget, you're getting rid of the grinder. You're getting rid of the vibrators. You're getting rid of the mixing bowls. And I mean, I want to keep spatula, the mixing bowl, I don't know. But you're getting rid of the alginate. You're getting rid of the stone. I mean, you're getting rid of a lot of stuff. So don't tell me, guys, look, if you're not ready to get into this, fine. But once you see the power of 3D printing for your practice, don't tell me that there's not enough space. because I know there's enough space. You just have to put your thinking cap on, like all of us dentists have to sometimes get creative and find a way to get this into your practice, because it's like a rocket ship getting ready to take off, and those of us who've been in it a while, we're just going to be ahead of everybody that didn't get into it quickly enough. And I don't want you guys to get left behind on this. So that's why I'm out there preaching to the masses. I want you guys to bring this into your practice, and I'm really pumped up about it. There's a bright future, and if you guys need anything from me, just let me know. Like I said, we'll be here on this channel. We'll be on the website, the3dpa.org, and there's a variety of ways from there you can reach me if you need me. Okay?